I'm Timothy Neale. I'm an anthropologist and social scientist, I guess, generally at Deakin University. In the past few years, I've been involved in a variety of research projects around cultural land management and how we support it.
My name's Oliver Costello. I'm a Bundjalung man from the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, a small acknowledged country here.
We're here because we're two researchers working on a Natural Hazards Research Australia project. We have years of collaborative experience between us. As a non-Indigenous person, as an uninvited guest on country, I often think about partnership and collaboration, and people ask me, why do you do this kind of research? And I think because I understand partnership and collaboration as two-way. Non-Indigenous people have a responsibility to step up, to be part of that change, and not just expect that Indigenous people are going to tell them what to do or what the answers are. It can't be a matter of just like sitting back and waiting. That's just things that, there's too much inertia, things are not going to change. So I feel fundamentally as a non-Indigenous person, as a non-Indigenous researcher, I have a responsibility to take part in that dialogue.
I guess through this project, we're bringing different mobs together, different agencies and researchers to, I guess, have a look at what's working and what's not working, I guess, in the space. We've obviously seen some really catastrophic natural hazards and disasters, from fires, floods, and changing climate. We're going to see more and more of that. So there's a lot of people to talk to, and I guess that's really the focus of our work, is bringing people together. How do we represent First Nations voices into these spaces that haven't been heard for a long time? And it's quite a challenging space that we're working in, and such an important space. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is, I guess, raise the voice of First Nations custodians, making sure that they're heard in different parts of Natural Hazards Research Australia's agenda, but also beyond all the agencies, all the research partners. There's a whole heap of organisations and individuals out there that I guess need to have a better understanding about the reality that they're on First Nations country, the projects that they do impact on us and our well-being, our landscapes. Country is a part of our identity, and so getting people to understand that and how that relates to the work that they do is really challenging. And the only way to do it is getting people together, building those connections and those relationships, so that when people go out and design the research projects or the implementation plans or the response to natural hazards, that they understand who they need to be talking to and what are those key issues that are driving First Nations agendas and how they can support them.
What we're up to is really kind of two things. We want to have workshops with people who are working on partnerships and collaborations in particular areas to talk about key issues like how do you want research to work in this space across different topics, and how do you want to reform what we're calling governance, but which is really like relationships between Indigenous groups and government. The key to this project is responding to the proliferating scale and number of collaborations that we're seeing occur between Indigenous groups and government. This is just a space of immense growth, and therefore a real need for guidance and coordination. So we're holding a number of workshops, and we're also going to be doing what we're calling subject matter expert interviews with people who are involved in these kinds of collaborations. So one of the initial pieces of work we've done is really to try and review the existing literature, because there's a lot of great work that's already been done, to think about what are some of the principles, protocols and practices for doing collaboration in the space between First Nations and government, or First Nations and researchers. So this initial piece of work was to review that and really try to synthesize it down into a set of principles, protocols and practices which are going to be useful for a variety of audiences. Because there's just some amazing work out there, but it's not necessarily accessible. It's not necessarily in the language that Natural Hazards Research Australia type partners are going to engage with. Key hope for the future for me in thinking about this kind of work and this kind of field is that in the future we'll see less of agencies going to under-resourced Indigenous groups and saying, how can you help us? We'll see more actual devolution of power and responsibility to Indigenous groups who are resourced to do the work on the country. We want to see not just the passage of responsibility, but also the passage of resourcing.
For me, going forward, I think the really important thing, hopefully, is that people understand their responsibilities to country and in their roles. The principles and protocols and processes that we outline it's just a guide. Everywhere you go, there's different local cultural protocols and different people and different relationships to country. And so really it's just kind of giving people an understanding of the responsibility they have, whenever you know, go to someone's house, you know, like it's polite to knock on the door, you know what I mean, wipe your feet on the mat, you know. So whenever you're going into someone else's country, like what are the appropriate protocols that we follow? So I think it's just about people understanding that, to take the time to, you know, like connect to people and country and understand, you know, why they're there and what is their purpose and how can they contribute. And I think that's really the, you know, the exciting opportunity that we have is just to build a better understanding about how we can work together, how we can follow those, you know, like the protocols that First Nations protocols, the cultural protocols that I've learned, they come from country first and people learn those things. And so much of the work that we do is about the environment and, you know, climate change and, you know, it's like, you know, the floods, the fires, they don't just come from nowhere. They're systems that are changing and we're driving all of that change because we don't understand those protocols. People have lost their way in a sense around our relationship to country. And so being able to understand those protocols and be able to make sure that we're doing things the right way and we can help to, you know, learn, you know, what is the country, what is the sky, what are those systems teaching us? You know, what are those indicators for change? Who are the people that we can talk to? How can we understand that responsibility? I think that's really the opportunity that we have.